the biggest storylines from the Premier League final weekend. Now, look, we're gonna emphasize the Premier League here and talk more about the Premier League, but I will touch on some of the other leagues that are going around the world and some big things going on there. But the biggest one of all is what's going on with the information surrounding the Premier League. Manchester City, first place. They can clinch their Premier League title by defeating West Ham on Sunday. Arsenal also have an opportunity to win the league. They must win at home against Everton, and Man City either needs to lose or draw for Arsenal to win the title. Now, if Arsenal win and Man City draw, Arsenal would also win the title on goal differential, since they have a +1 goal differential over them right now flat. So if both of them finish with a draw, if Arsenal wins and Man City draws, Arsenal would win. But Arsenal, with anything less than either a win, so a draw or a loss, both will not be enough for them. So they must win against Everton and hope for a little bit of help. And it really comes down to that Aston Villa game a few weeks ago. But these are all the rest of the teams: Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Aston Villa. They're all confirmed into the Champions League. They'll all be participants in next year's Champions League. Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, expected. Aston Villa, remarkable achievement for them. Remarkable achievement for Unai Emery, which I don't put past him, to take this Aston Villa team into the Champions League and to make not a run, but to show a good to make a good account for themselves. Unai Emery, he's a brilliant manager. He is a brilliant manager. His accomplishments at Sevilla, his accomplishments at Villarreal, you cannot underestimate the impact that he has made on the clubs that he has been at. Arsenal, he wasn't really able to take them to where they wanted to reach, but he's had his good moments at Arsenal. He had his good, and it was kind of like not a bad club at a bad timing, but it could have been in a better situation for Unai Emery. He had a lot of players that couldn't play the way he wanted to play, and he stuck to it, and it led to some mistakes early, and then the results started getting bad, confidence started getting bad, and it kind of fell apart in the Europa League final, and the start of that next season just didn't let out to be successful. I think his campaign at Arsenal could have been a lot better if he won that Europa League, knowing that they would have Champions League football next year. Maybe that brings in more money for them to spend. Also, he was never properly backed at Arsenal. And that wasn't the best, times for him. But now what he's done at Aston Villa, brilliant, 68 points in 37 games. He has a very good opportunity to have a 70-point season with Aston Villa. That's a phenomenal accomplishment. Now, as far as Europa League and the Premier League, as of right now, only 5th place gets Europa League, with the other spot first going to the FA Cup winners. That's first. But if Manchester United loses to Manchester City in the FA Cup final, 6th place in the Europa League, 6th place in the Premier League will go to Europa League. But if Man United were to win, since they're not in the top 6, Man United will take that 6th place spot, enter straight into the Europa League, and 6th place will go to the Conference League. And as far as the Europa League, Tottenham, they're clinched. They're in the Europa League. They're not clinched actually, because they're only 3 points behind Chelsea with the game in hand. But they play a Sheffield United team, which they only need a point. A point is enough for them to be 100% guaranteed Europa League. Chelsea, they're in a position where they could jump Tottenham. If Tottenham loses and they win, obviously that's very unlikely. They can get that automatically Europa League spot, but they're sitting pretty in 6th place, 3 points ahead of Newcastle United with a point. If they can manage just a draw, that'll be enough for them to secure that 6th place spot, which more than likely than not, as long as City take care of United in the FA Cup final, that will take them into the Europa League, which is very important for them, because they need a backup to reach the Champions League the following year, next year, if they're not able to reach top four. I think it'll be a very important achievement for Chelsea if they're able to secure Europa League football, especially from the start that they had this season. Now Conference League goes to one spot, and it'll probably be pending the FA Cup final. It'll be either the 6th or 7th place that'll go into Conference League, which is a battle between Newcastle and United and Chelsea, but at Chelsea also. Really depends on whether or not that FA Cup final goes, because it's all a knockout final effect. If Manchester United wins, 6th place Conference League. If Manchester United loses, 7th place Conference League. As far as relegation goes, Burnley and Sheffield United, they are relegated. They're officially relegated. There's one more team that's still needed to go with them. It's between Nottingham Forest and Luton Town. Now, look, technically Luton Town are still in contention, but effectively they are indeed relegated because their goal differential is crazy. Luton would have to beat Fulham, and Forest will have to lose to Burnley with and between those two games, there's gonna need a goal differential swing of 12 goals. That's not gonna happen. So Nottingham Forest is safe, and Luton Town are not mathematically relegated on a technicality, but they are relegated, and they'll be joining Burnley and Sheffield United. Leicester City and Ipswich Town has actually been automatically promoted to the Premier League. Leicester City and Ipswich Town, and Leeds United, Southampton, West Bromwich Albion will compete in the playoffs for the other spot. Now, if you want to go into the other leagues, just go into touchdown. Real Madrid, they have clinched La Liga. The 4 teams that are going to the Champions League next year in La Liga have also been confirmed. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Girona, Atletico Madrid, they've all been confirmed. Europa League, there's still 3 teams in contention with Athletic Club, Real Sociedad, Real Betis, but it really depends also. Athletic, they won the Copa del Rey, so they will be in the Europa League regardless of finishing position. But with that said, they're almost certain to finish in the top 6. So you know it's safe to say that the place for the cup moves over to the league, which is the 5th and 6th, which is 6th place. They'll enter the Europa League. And the Conference League will be going to 7th there most likely, so it's either Real Sociedad or Betis. And to get in there, Villarreal, they're still mathematically in there with 51 points, but it'll take a miracle. Granada and Almeria, they've been relegated. There's 5 teams that are still in contention for that last relegation spot. Cadiz, unlucky, despite their back-to-back wins, they're still adrift because of victory from the teams that they're rivaling. They hosted Las Palmas on Sunday. They'll need to keep the battle alive. They'll be relegated with a defeat or a draw if Mallorca pick up points. Other games see Celta Vigo travel to already relegated Granada, and Rayo Vallecano go to Barcelona. Another thing with the Bundesliga, Bayern Leverkusen, they have 1 game to go to remain invincible within the Bundesliga, which will be a remarkable achievement. And they have already secured their first championship in their history. Now, if they can go on and win invincible in their first championship in their history, I mean this is a story that you're gonna go on and talk about for a very, very long time. I mean, the way we talk about the Arsenal Invincibles, this is a team that did it in a lesser league, but did it in more of a supreme fashion. When you look at all competitions, when you look at their German Cup and a Europa League away from winning a Europa League treble, but also an invincible season. Wow, that'll be phenomenal. Wow, it's a storytelling ending. The Bundesliga has sealed an extra place through European performance, which sends the fifth team into the Champions League. They're confirmed. Leverkusen will be in the Champions League next year. Bayern Munich will be in the Champions League next year. Stuttgart, Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund, they'll all be in the Champions League. And depending on whether or not Borussia Dortmund can win the UCL final, which automatically gives them a spot in the UCL next year, the sixth place team will move on to the Champions League, which is close between Eintracht Frankfurt and Hoffenheim. Eintracht Frankfurt, they're 3 points ahead of Hoffenheim with the last games to go, and if they can, there's not a huge goal differential swing, so it could go either way. But that's still going on. Real quick with Serie A, Inter has wrapped up the Scudetto, and 4 Champions League spots have been secured. Inter Milan, AC Milan, Bologna, Juventus, and then Atalanta, Roma, and Lazio. They're battling for that final spot, and it really depends on the Atalanta situation with them in the Europa League final.